Hey guys, it's editing me, which is why the setup looks a little weird, but I forgot to talk about this when I was recording the episode today. In the past couple of episodes, you may have noticed that I don't have like my intro music. This has been kind of a fiasco. So when I was in San Diego, I got an email from Spotify that like my episode had been like taken down for copyright infringement. And I was like, that seems false because I own the rights to this music. Like I paid the fee, I have the certificate to this royalty free music. So I went through this whole like filing a claim with Spotify and all of that stuff and presented my license. This was happened like 2 episodes ago and they never answered. And I was like, okay, well, like I have the licensing, and then they never restored my episode. So I just re-uploaded it without the music. Well, the same thing happened last week. I posted the episode within a couple days. I got a copyright infringement claim again. And so I had to show that like I have the license for this music. And so I was like, okay, here's the license. Again, radio silence from Spotify. And like, I was curious about why this hadn't happened before, but I think that like when you start getting a certain number of views on your podcast, when you get a certain number of listens, I should say, on the podcast, thanks for listening, you guys, they start policing your copyrights more carefully. I don't know, but like I have the license to the music, so I'm currently fighting with them about it. So in the meantime, I'm going to give you a horrible 5-second clip of the music you would hear should my case get approved. You guys are gonna hate this. Anyways, today's episode is all about hot girl missions, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys about a recent hot girl mission that I went on because it was so fun and flirty and fresh. I'm going to talk to you guys about the hot girl mission protocol and how you can carry out a hot girl mission, the purpose of a hot girl mission, and why it is important for you. I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to Model Behavior. It's Macy. I am on a time crunch today, okay? But it is now Thursday, and the events that I'm going to tell you about all happened on Saturday. This week has been so busy. First of all, I hope you guys are having a good week, but also this week has been so busy for me. I had to cover a bunch of classes, Legree classes, for one of the instructors who was out of town. So literally my days have consisted of working out at 6, going and working my research job, and then going straight from there to teach Legree for usually like 3 hours in the evening. And then I get home at like 8:30, and I'm just tired. So I have not had a chance to record this episode, but I'm doing it now. First, I wanted to say thank you to all of you guys for the feedback I got on my decentering men episode. I had some really great discussions with some of you, and I think that it brought up some interesting conversation because last week we talked about how it's important not to center men and base your self-worth off of desirability or male approval, and how as a society it's really built around that. So I want to say, yeah, thank you to everybody who gave me good feedback on that. Also, this week, on the heels of that decentering men episode, I wanted to do this episode because decentering men does not mean you cannot have a crush. I just think that there is a certain way to go about having a crush that makes it fun and flirty and fresh, and it doesn't like consume your whole life. So I wanted to tell you guys about my weekend because after recording last week's episode, I was like, okay, I need to go on a hot girl mission. I have not been on a hot girl mission in a fat minute. I know I talked a lot about hot girl missions at the beginning of this podcast, but then some people were telling me like, oh, your episodes have gotten so serious lately. And I'm sorry for that. I've just been like in my like deep introspective healing phase. And honestly, I have not had a crush in a very, very long time. So that's why I haven't really talked about it, because I haven't had any content. I'm going to give you the weekend recap. I'm going to tell you about the hot girl mission that we went on. And I'm going to tell you why it was a raging success. Raging success? Wild success. Whatever, girl. I really wanted to record this earlier this week because everything was fresh in my mind, but work just got so busy that I just did not have time to record. Lately I've been really having trouble balancing everything, like between my social life and my job, and then now I'm teaching Legree, and then recording content for TikTok, content for the podcast. Instagram is just kind of like my personal Instagram, so I don't really like put too much thought into that. But I've also had a few offers for brand deals recently that I've turned down because I'm like, well, I'm barely posting. It would feel, in my mind, it would feel inorganic to like just come and post brand deals and that's it. Because I just don't have time to like make any other content for TikTok. And like the videos that I've been making lately, like the videos where I'm talking lately, have been doing really well, but those videos take a really, really long time to put together, film, and edit. And so that's why I just haven't been doing it. I just haven't had time. And also, like when I'm posting a lot on TikTok, it's taking time away from recording podcast episodes. And the podcast is like my number one true love. So I'm just like, okay, if you see me posting a lot on TikTok and I'm not posting on here, that's why, and vice versa. I've been posting more on the podcast lately, so I haven't been posting as much on TikTok. I just simply do not have time for all of it, and that is okay. All right. So on the heels of last week's episode, I texted the girls and I was like, we need to get up to some shenanigans this weekend, okay? Like, we need to have a good time because it has been far too long of me being in this healing era. We need to just go out and have some fun. So we went on a good, fun hot girl mission this weekend, and I just have really been feeling like we're so back. And I want to tell you guys first, like, what a hot girl mission is. So like a hot girl mission, usually there's like a boy involved, usually there's some flirting involved, but I want to specify that the central aim of a hot girl mission is not surrounded around men. It's about you discovering your confidence, putting yourself out there, having fun with your friends. And the whole point of a hot girl mission is you do something with friends, because that way if the mission fails, you still have a really fun time. And I like to think of it as like kind of like a science experiment. Like, you make an objective, you have a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, you have an alternate hypothesis, you test that one, you go out, do the procedure, do the protocol, and then you come back and make conclusions and make plans for future directions. That's literally the scientific method. You always have a purpose of your study. You generate a hypothesis, you carry out the protocol, and then you make conclusions and future directions. And for the purpose of a hot girl mission, your purpose of your study is going to be your mindset. Okay. So that's going to be like, okay, what do we want to accomplish this weekend? You can have like one physical accomplishment, like, oh, I want to go talk to this guy. And then your other accomplishment is going to be like, oh, I want to get back out there, or like, oh, I want to build my confidence up, or I want to do something that I like normally wouldn't ever do. That's your mindset. Okay. Number 2 is your hypothesis generation or your goals. So you're like, okay, best case scenario, what will turn out? Like, what will happen this weekend? And then also, I really encourage you to make an alternative hypothesis where you say, okay, if for some reason we don't run into this guy, or things don't work out, or he doesn't like me, what's our other goal? Third, you have your procedure or your protocol. So that's like how you're going to carry out this hot girl mission. This is so fun. Honestly, you guys, hot girl missions are all just about having silly fun with your friends. And then number 4, your conclusions and future directions. So that's going to be your debrief. We sometimes call them PDDs, post-date debrief, but hot girl missions are more about just like going out and flirting or going out and doing something fun. So it doesn't have to be a PDD. You just debrief about the mission. So you're like, okay, what went well, what didn't? And then you just like giggle with your friends. And that's the best part, the conclusions and future directions. Also, after you make your conclusions, after your debrief, you have to be like, okay, where do we go from here? What's next? Always be looking forward to the next mission. Okay, girl? So now that we understand the 4 steps of a hot girl mission, that's purpose of study, hypothesis generation, protocol, and conclusions and future directions, aka your debrief. Now I can tell you about how we went about this past weekend. There is a boy that I have seen around a few times, and I think he's cute and I want to talk to him. So I was like, okay, the mission for this weekend is I want to talk to him and I want to invite him and his friends to come out with us, because we already had plans to go and have like a little like girls' night on Saturday night. Like, we were going to go out, we were just going to dance, we were going to have fun. And so I was like, why not tie a hot girl mission into this? It's been a while. I haven't been feeling like my usual sparkly self. Let's just have a silly fun time. So there are a group of athletes from a local pro sports team, and this guy is on that team. So I was like, okay, I want to talk to him. Spoiler alert, it did not happen in the way that I thought it was going to. Basically, like, I didn't end up getting a chance to talk to him. So that was my original hypothesis. It didn't work out. But now here's where the story gets good. So there is this player on this team who has kind of been on the cusp for a while. Like, he's a good player, but he has always been like kind of like on the fence of getting like sent down to the next level. And so we're always cheering for him because like he's a local guy. He's like played at a local college. So it's like I love this guy, okay? Like, I have been rooting for him since day one. And I feel like all of the girls, we all have our little favorite players that we're just rooting for. And this is like my guy, okay? And for the purpose of anonymity, we're going to call this guy Sleeves. So Sleeves was my favorite player. I'm always like joking about Sleeves. I'm just like, I love him, okay? For a while, this guy has been on a professional tryout with this team. So it means he's like, doesn't have an official contract, but he's kind of like on, like I said, he's kind of on the cusp. So we developed this verb, which isn't going to make as much sense with his nickname, but it's called sleeving. And it's where every day we check the transactions and see if Sleeves is still on the team. And this is not done in a demeaning way. Like, we genuinely are rooting for him. And lately he's been playing really good. He's been scoring a lot. And so we were like, it's looking good for Sleeves, right? And so it's become this super fun thing for me. I don't know. Because like I said, all of us girls, we have our different favorite players that we're rooting for. Usually they're like rookies or prospects. And so this was my guy. On Friday, right before one of their games, he signed a contract with this team. And it was extremely exciting. It was like the news of the day. The group chat was blowing up. Sleeves got a contract. And the funny part about this is we heard through the grapevine that when he was playing here, I think he was like fully expecting to get sent back down to the other team because he only brought 2 outfits is what we heard, and one of the people on the team had to go take him to get more contacts because he only brought 2 pairs of contacts. And he was living in a hotel next to the arena where they play, so it was like he thought he was here for a good time, not a long time, and that's why we love Sleeves. Anyways, so he signed a contract and we were just all elated to hear about this. So after one of the games, and remember, this is the beginning of the Hot Girl mission where I was going to talk to this other player that I was like, oh, I think he's kind of cute. I'm just going to say hi. Didn't end up happening. But Sleeves walked by a couple times and I told him like, hey, nice job. Congrats on your contract. Really well deserved. And I was like so excited for him because he's always been one of those players that I kind of just like admire from afar. I'm like, we're rooting for you silently. So anyways, he was like going to get treatment or something. And so then Security King, the security guard that I always stand next to, who are like, we're buddies. And we like gossip. It's so fun. I love the security guard. He was like, I have to go do something. You hold down the fort, jokingly. So I was just standing there by myself, and Sleeves walks back by again from treatment to go back to the locker room. And he just comes up to me and he goes like, hi. And I was like, hi. And then I didn't really know what to say. So it was silent for a second. And then I was like, great game. And then he was like, thanks. And then he just walked back to the locker room. I think he was just being friendly because he's like, this random girl told me great job. And she was like gushing over. It was hard not to sleeve. It was hard not to sleeve too hard because it just, the lore in the group chat. Anyways, we're heading back to the apartment after the game. The plan was to change and then we were going to go out and have our little hot girl night. And so a bunch of friends were meeting us there. It was just going to be a guaranteed good time at like one of our favorite bars. It was going to be awesome. On the way back to the apartment, makes this joke. She's like, I think I just saw Sleeves over there. And I thought she was being serious. So I was like, what? I was like, this is so serendipitous. And she just looks at me and she goes, no, I'm just kidding. And so I was just like, okay. We just started laughing. So then we get ready to go out. We hop in the Uber. We head to our favorite bar. Our friends meet us there. We get a table miraculously. And we're just having a good time. There's live music. Guys are asking us to dance. We're like giggling about it because these guys are being so funny and out of pocket, but not in a bad way, like in a funny, endearing way. And so we're just having a good time. A couple of our other friends come in after a while and they come and find us at our table. One of our friends sits down and she goes, the entire team is over there. So then I kind of jokingly said to her like, oh, is Sleeves there? And we like laugh because of the earlier joke. And our friend goes, yeah, actually. And I was like, no way. And so then I kind of started making jokes about going over and talking to him. And our friend that had just sat down, she was like, please don't. And I was like, okay, I won't. I was just kidding. And this inadvertently became our alternative mission for the weekend. So the night goes on. Again, we're just talking, having fun. And we can see the guys' table from where we're sitting, but their backs are turned to us, so they can't really see us. And so we're having a good time. Thankfully, we had a group of 5 girls, so it was strength in numbers. Perfect night. If you're going to go out and have a hot girl mission, it's important to have a good girl group to go with because as a group of 2 girls, when you go out just in pairs, you're very vulnerable, I would say. A group of 2 girls is very vulnerable. You end up getting approached by a lot of guys that you're like, I don't really want to talk to you, but you're not being rude. But when you're with a bigger group of girls, I would say like 3 to 6 girls, super, super fun. 3 is pushing it. I would say 4 to 6 is the perfect group size. At a certain point in the night, someone makes a joke. I don't remember why this came about. I think I was in conversation with someone else. Someone says to me, you should buy Sleeves a Vegas bomb. And I'm like, wait, that's actually so funny because all of his teammates are there, but just buying him a Vegas bomb will make him look like the man in front of his teammates. Because remember, he just signed a contract. He was on the cusp of getting reassigned for the longest time, but we were like, no, let's do it. That's so fun. Anyway, so I go up to the bar. I kind of have to walk near their table to get to the bar. So I was like trying to weave behind people so that they couldn't see me, because the whole part of this plan was to send it anonymously so that they like didn't know who sent it. Because I'm like, that's hilarious. Getting sent a mysterious Vegas bomb to one guy at the table, but not the rest of them, is so funny. It's like we're singling you out. Anyways, I thought it was so mischievous. I loved it. So anyways, I found the bartender and she was like, no, you have to talk to one of our servers so that she can run the drink to him. So then she was like, okay, can you step away from the bar a little bit? And so then she steps closer to the guy's table. And at this point, there's only 2 groups of people in between us. So if someone shifts a little bit, like, I am going to be seen. I am going to be found out. So I'm hiding behind these people and I'm wearing my heeled boots. So I'm taller than a lot of the people in there. So I'm just like, uh-oh. So then I had to get the bartender in on it. And I'm like, no, I want to send a guy at that table a shot anonymously. It's got to be secret. And she was like, oh, okay. And she was so cool. She was so into it. Anyways, I panicked when I was ordering because I was trying to hide. And I was like, tequila shot with lime, which is weirdly aggressive. And I told her, I was like, just go up to that table right there, because she had just delivered a round of drinks to them. So I was like, that table that you were just at, go and deliver the shot to that table and just ask for Sleeves. Say, is there a Sleeves here? And give the shot to Sleeves. And she was like, okay, perfect. So I got the shot. I hid on my way back down to the table and I slid back into the booth, and now I'm in the safety of the girl group again. So we watched Sleeves get delivered this tequila shot, but because it was kind of hard to see from where we were sitting, we couldn't tell if he actually took it or not. So we were like, oh, that was kind of anticlimactic. And then after a bit, one of the girls was like, I'm going to go do a drive-by. So she did like a discreet drive-by of the table, and she comes back and she's like, okay, there's a bunch of empty shot glasses on the table, but one of them has a lime in it and it's empty. So I was like, perfect. Hopefully Sleeves took the shot. But nothing really happened after that. Anyways, it gets to the point where it gets pretty late. Okay, this was a late night, and that is not super normal for me or any of us, I don't think, but we were just having such a good time. And so all of a sudden, it's last call. They turn the lights on. It's like 1:30, by the way. I'm like, bar doesn't close until 2, and you turn the lights on permanently at 1:30 a.m. Anyways, we still were finishing our drinks. So as we're putting stuff in our bags, getting ready to leave, the same server from earlier that had delivered the shot to Sleeves' table comes over with 2 Irish car bombs. And she's like, Sleeves says thank you. And we're like, wow, he finally got the courage. And so we're confused why there were 2 of them. We have some ideas of why there were 2 of them. But at first we were like, what if he wanted me to take the other one over to his table and do it with him? And then we were like, girl, no, we are women. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Anyways, at this point, we're like, doesn't matter. This is hilarious. While we were about to take them, there's 2 guys sitting next to us and they're like, hey, can we do car bombs with you? And we were like, yeah. So then they ordered 2 and then we did the car bombs together. And like, this was maybe pretty smart on Sleeves' part. If he didn't know who sent the shot, to get the same server to like send the shot back, because then they could watch to see where she's going and see what table she delivers it to. Okay. But I don't know. We don't really know what went down after that. It was a little bit confusing, but we took the shots. So then we're like, okay, someone's got to take credit for this. So me, being a third party with no interest in the matter, I was like, well, it was my idea. He's my guy. Love Sleeves. So I'm going to just like give him a fun little wave, because we had talked after his game. He's going to know that I'm always saying hi to him at this point now. And by always, I mean, I've done it like 4 times. So anyways, also it's kind of funny because he's super shy. So it's like, I'm such an extrovert that whenever I like sniff that someone is shy, I'm like, I'm going to take you under my wing. I've made so many girlfriends that way, being like, oh, you're shy? Perfect. We're going to be friends. So we're walking out to leave, and we have to walk by these guys' table. And one of the bouncers, he's like being weirdly aggressive. He's like a frat guy telling people to like leave the frat house. He's like, get out, blah, blah, blah. We were like, what the heck, bro? Like, we are on the move. But Sleeves' table is sat, okay? All those guys are sat at the table, not moving. And it's interesting because they're not even getting their coats on, not getting ready to leave. They're just still sitting there kind of motionless. So that's where we got a little bit confused about the 2 shots. We were like, were we supposed to take one over? Or what was the plan? I didn't want to do that. I'm like, I'm not approaching a table full of strange men because I don't really know these guys. And so I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. So as we're leaving, we're all walking out, and I just turn around and I look back at Sleeves' table, and he's looking at me, and I just smile and wave and I say, bye, Sleeves. And then we just walk away. And I just thought it was so silly and fun. And I'm just like, what are the odds that we're making jokes about Sleeves? And then he just appears. So now we're going to get into like the breakdown of the mission and why it was a success. So I told you guys about the steps to a hot girl mission. And now I'm going to talk to you guys about why I feel like it was a success. Okay. First of all, I want to say the purpose of a hot girl mission, again, is to have fun with your friends, put yourself out there, put yourself in situations you normally wouldn't, and to build confidence. Like, really, hot girl missions are all about building your confidence. So just remember that. It's not about whether or not these guys respond. Leaves could have not sent shots back and it still would have been a successful hot girl mission. When you are approaching this from an objective scientific perspective, you are the researcher, okay? So you dictate what happens in this experiment. Again, it doesn't fail. You provide evidence against your initial hypothesis. Like, the experiment worked. You carried out the protocol. It's just the response variable that you get is going to be different, and you have no control over that. So just know that if you are going to become a researcher and if you are going to successfully carry out hot girl missions, the success of the mission does not hinge on whether or not you get a response from the target. So I want to start with that. Second of all, one of the other really important things when you're carrying out a hot girl mission is to have a good mindset going into the mission. So that's your purpose of the study. So you need to say it out loud ahead of time, not just have an idea in your mind. You need to tell your collaborators, aka your friends. You need to tell your fellow scientists, I am going to do this weekend. I am going to carry out this experiment this weekend. And that way they can support you in that and hold you accountable. That's a really important thing, is you have to speak it out loud. And I think when I started doing that for hot girl missions, things started going really well for me because it kind of gamifies the process of like dating and going out there and putting yourself out there. And I'm not saying this was like a date or anything. It was just like a flirty night, but like it really gamifies it to the point where you take it less seriously because, girl, it was never that serious. It's all about having fun. So second is your hypothesis generation. So I generated a hypothesis. I generated an objective that I was going to go talk to this player, and I had a couple different theories of how that would happen. Neither of them worked out. But as a good researcher, while you're collecting data on your initial experiment, you may observe something else that happens during that experiment and you say, oh, that's interesting. I should pursue that experiment instead. Case in point, Sleeves. Sleeves became our alternative hypothesis for the weekend. So that in and of itself was successful because I was able to have a conversation with him. I was able to tell him congrats on his contract. And I was like, okay, girl mission done and dusted. Obviously, I was wrong from there. So that comes to our procedure. Number 3, your protocol. So I completed my initial protocol. We were joking about seeing Sleeves, and then all of a sudden he just appeared at the bar that we were at. And we were like, as good researchers would, we were like, this is too good. We have to develop a new protocol. So as a researcher, you're like pulling these threads, okay, of any mission. You have an initial experiment in mind, and that might yield 2 or 3 other experiments. So as a good researcher, you're collecting observations. I think if you get too focused on the outcome of the initial experiment, it's going to blind you from making observations that allow you to take a different track with the night, okay? It's going to blind you from being like, wait, this happened. This is so funny. Let's pursue this instead. Again, you're an objective researcher. As a scientist, it's really important to be objective about your work, okay? So you're not going in expecting something to happen. You have an idea or a goal in mind of like, okay, this hypothesis is either going to be true or false. And then you have to think, okay, if the hypothesis is false, aka if our null hypothesis is proven correct, where are we going to go from there? And that's where you bring in your sub hypotheses. All right. So the procedure was a raging success. And then when we got to the bar and the shot, all of it was a success. And I'll tell you why. Like, things that made it a success is that we were in it together, okay? So you giggle about it with your friends. That is what makes this stuff fun. Because if I'm out by myself and I do something like this and I have no one to giggle about it with, was it even a hot girl mission? If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears, did the tree even really fall? And that's kind of what makes it fun. Like, it's like your Sex in the City moment to like giggle with your friends. So like, do that. And if you don't have friends to go with, befriend the bartender, okay? And like, let them in on your hot girl mission, because like, you have to speak it out loud. You have to speak it into existence. Okay, girl. So in conclusion, this was a successful hot girl mission. We went in with a plan, had my friends in it, had my collaborators in on it. We carried out the initial protocol. The protocol did not work. We developed a side experiment, carried out that experiment. That experiment worked. And ultimately, we just had a really, really fun weekend with the girls. So that's all I have for you guys today. I wanted to talk to you guys about my first hot girl mission in, how long has it been since I've had like an actual hot girl mission? I would say it's probably been about like almost a year since I've had a good hot girl mission. So that just like revived me. It refreshed me. I was like, girl, sometimes I feel like I try to limit being a scientist to just when I'm in the lab or when I'm at work. And some of the fun things that I have realized from even just like starting this podcast is like, I am a scientist through and through. I apply the scientific method to every facet of my life. And I've been doing it unapologetically lately. And it's been so silly and fun. So even if you're not a woman in STEM, you can become a woman in STEM, okay? We need more women in STEM. I challenge you to develop a hot girl mission with your friends and go out as an objective researcher. Go out and have no expectations for what's going to happen. A good researcher is always going to look at everything objectively, take a really outside perspective from it as if you were a researcher. You're not expecting a certain outcome. You have a hypothesis and something that you think might happen. But if it doesn't happen, you're still a researcher, okay? Remember that. A hot girl mission is never failed. You never have a failed hot girl mission if you're having fun with your friends and if you're building confidence and learning more about yourself and putting yourself out there. So with that, I have to run, but thank you so much for listening. And if you've been on any hot girl missions lately, I would love to know. So you can DM me. I am dying to know. I love being a girl. All right. Love you guys, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye.